Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are back. We are back. Sorry for that test. We had to test the audio. We got some new stuff in the building. Some new stuff. I hope the audio sounds way better, But we back. Nutty North podcast, or Nutty North, the AFC North podcast. It's me, Rondell Sutherland, here with T Nesbitt. What's good, T? How you feeling?
Well, first of all, it better be better. If it's brand new, like I'm sitting here, I'm hearing you, like, maybe it better sound better. That's just where I'm at with it. It looks good. It looks shiny. It's all neon and freaking mid 80s look with the colorful. Look like a bag of Skittles, little Starburst take. So hopefully it sounds as good as those things taste. But outside of that, man, I'm feeling all right. I can't even say I'm feeling great. I'm feeling all right. It's a little bittersweet, man. It's definitely bittersweet because I'm riding the high,
right?
But I'm kind of riding the low too. You know what I mean? That's Cleveland sports. That's it right there. The Cavs beat the Nets. I know this ain't open gym, but I just had to get it out. I couldn't hold off another week, man. I just couldn't.
I'm kind of glad we didn't do the show yesterday.
Why?
Just so we could, cause I can add on to what I already have with the show notes with the Cavs beating the Nets, with that being the debut.
Touche. I mean, I would have called it with the prediction because I definitely picked it. More of it's just it's optimism that I don't know where it comes from, but we won, so I would have been right. And if you betted that game, you rolling in the dough. But yeah, outside of that, man, I would love to be talking about something different today, but if I'm gonna sit here and gloat when we win and talk all that, talk when we
lose,
be here when we lose. So,
and I ain't gonna lie, the audio sound way better. I'm listening to the live stream. I'm a little delayed through my ear, but it sound way better.
Money well spent. You're welcome, OMS. You are welcome. I need my piece too. Get my piece of the pie.
But okay, first thing on the show notes we got is that the Browns and the Ravens both lost in the divisional round. How you feeling? I mean, at least y'all put up a better fight than the Ravens did.
I'm not huge on moral victories.
You're not huge on that?
No.
Come on, man.
I mean, I want the actual victory.
Y'all scored what? 17 points on the defending champs?
They're not known for defense. Like, I mean, we're an earlier Patrick Mahomes injury away from winning that game. But that's why I don't like moral victories, because you're not going to look at that, at least I don't, and say, well, we're getting there. That doesn't show you're getting there. We kind of, I don't want to say lucked up. Anything to do with injuries is always unfortunate. But Patrick Mahomes is out there. They're scoring way more points than they scored. It's just that we dealt with the injury. We showed up more than the Ravens, and I'll get to that in a minute. But at the same time, we both came home with the same thing, an L, and we're watching the game in the same place at the same time on the same channel instead of playing in it. So I'm never going to be happy with that. And that's what a moral victory gets you. We're almost there. I don't want to almost be there. I want to be there. We beat the Steelers, and I'm looking at it like go all the way. I actually wanted to play the Ravens, and I said that on the show last week. I wanted, in my ideal world, I wanted the Browns to win, obviously, and the Ravens to win. And then the Browns beat the Ravens, and then the Browns go on and beat the Bills. And then, not the Bills. And then they went on to beat the Bucks. So therefore, it would have been, you kind of took care of who tortured you. That was my level of thinking. Who tortured you all these years? It was the Steelers. It was the Ravens, just division-wise, and technically Tom Brady ran the AFC. You didn't really deal with him because you're not playing in the playoffs at all, so it's not like you had those. Like, luckily, we might be one of the teams that Tom Brady didn't beat in the playoffs. It just so happens to be one of those things, unless we play in the Super Bowl, and if that so happens, that so happens. But we're dealing with not actually having a beef with Tom Brady like that. It's just that he ran the AFC.
Right.
So ideally, I know he's not there anymore, but that's the road I wanted to take just because it would have been a dope story. Unfortunately, lost to Kansas City, which that very well could have happened even without Chad Henne. And shout out to him too. You finally won a game in Ohio.
Bug just said anything is possible.
Man, listen, I couldn't, boy, oh boy. And I talked to him, he'll tell you, I talked to him that day. We both thought the same thing. There's no way.
There's no way Chad Henne.
Not Chad Henne. But you going to bring Michael Hart out too?
Might as well.
I mean, come on. That's my thought process behind the whole thing. It can't be like this. But sure enough, he came in and he did what a backup quarterback's supposed to do. He came in and he got the job done. He didn't do nothing special, but that run in the fourth quarter that almost sealed it, and then the little pass at the end of it that took care of us. But it was just kind of one of those things, man. Like I said, we're half away. If that injury happens to Patrick Mahomes a few minutes earlier, I feel like the Browns beat the Chiefs. It's just that he was able to hold on long enough, and ultimately they got the win. And I mean, that's what you play for. So that's the moral victory that I want. If I'm going to take a moral victory, Chad Henne's moral victory, that's getting the W and going back and sitting down and resting that seat and going with a high. Chad Henne may never play another down in football again. He may be parked on that bench, but the last image you'll have of him is finally winning the game not in Ohio, but against an Ohio team. So shout out to him for that one. I ain't too many times I'm gonna shout out an Michigan fan. The Michigan player over here, but you get credit over here. We give you your flowers when you deserve them. So it's bittersweet, but we didn't just score 3 points either. So
that was actually the next thing I was gonna say. After scoring 3 points, do you think the Ravens should rethink things on offense?
That man needs to learn how to play quarterback.
I mean, I feel like he already knows how to play quarterback. I feel like the system needs to fit him a little bit better.
Jim Harbaugh has been doing what Jim Harbaugh has been doing. He's all right there. Excuse me, not Jim John. He's all right as an offensive coach. He can do his job. He knows what he's doing.
He mostly deals with the special teams, though.
No, he's a special teams coach. He doesn't as a head coach. You do with everybody.
Yeah, but
that's where his bread is buttered. But
right.
He still had one of the top offenses last year. It worked then. The problem is, and the problem that we've been talking about, and the problem I've long stated on this show, if Lamar Jackson doesn't develop as a quarterback, that ain't on the offensive coordinator and your system and none of that. That's on the quarterback.
I mean, it's on the QB coach too. If you think on it, somebody got to help him develop.
Yeah, but a lot of times they get the short end of the stick because they're actually the coaches. So they get knocked because you have to blame somebody. If it's going to be the quarterback coach or Lamar Jackson, guess who's going to win out every time? Lamar Jackson. So it's watching him. I'm looking at him. I'm going over the reads and everything. You're not becoming a quarterback the way that you need to be. You're not reading the football field. You're not making the right decisions. You're not making the throws that you need to make. You're just looking to run. And that's going to work to an extent because he's such a gifted athlete.
I mean, but that's the offense, though, that they have designed for him is run first.
I get that. But when he has a chance to drop back, like you gotta understand, you can't have a Kansas City offense if you're Lamar Jackson. You can't run that offense. However, Kansas City's personnel can run Baltimore's offense, meaning they have to play a certain type of way with Lamar Jackson. You can't play anyway. You can put Patrick Mahomes in any offense out there. Doesn't matter if it's West Coast, wishbone, run and gun. It don't matter who's the offense. He can go out there and he can run it. Like I said, you can put him in Lamar Jackson's offense. He would have put up the numbers. But Lamar Jackson, you have to cater your whole entire system to him. You have to have certain type of players that can play with him. There's so many things that you have to do differently that you probably wouldn't have to do with most quarterbacks, which is a gift and a curse because it's going to get you to playing in the playoffs a lot of times. It's going to get you deep. It's going to get you some regular season wins. It's going to get you all of that. But you're going to be capped at how far you can go. Like I said, Joe Flacco was able to take the team and win the championship with. Because you could put Joe Flacco in almost any offense outside of the offense of Lamar Jackson in. But you cannot do that with Lamar Jackson because he's a running quarterback. He needs to learn the game of quarterback a whole lot better to go to a place that he wants to go to. Other than that, he's going to be capped out. And that's kind of the problem that the Ravens are dealing with. So he's going to have to develop because you're not going to be able to change the offensive system that much. It's not like you can drop him back and throw it 30 to 40 times. You have to mix the run and the pass with it, but you kind of have to slow down your reads for him. You have to shorten it up. You have to have certain type of wide receivers for him. It's just too much maintenance for the dude. And all that's going to be a continuation of his career until he actually learns how to play the game of quarterback.
Was that not up there this whole time?
The whole time.
Crazy.
But I'm a professional, so I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? But point still remains. And again, that's a prime example. I can do it in whatever system. Period. This is Lamar Jackson. He's struggling. You scored 3 points. That's not good enough. It's never going to be good enough. Chad Henne probably would have scored more than 3 points.
I don't know about that one.
He might have.
I mean, he might have. But I don't know. I don't know if you could just put it all on Lamar. Because he has shown that he's willing to develop as a quarterback. I just don't know if their mindset is to let him drop back and pass. Because even at Louisville, he was a pocket quarterback that can run.
You know why you won't let him drop back and pass? Because he can't.
I mean, he can, though. He's shown that he got a decent arm. He's shown that he got decent accuracy. He throwing to the outside is a little shaky. You know, he can't throw outside the numbers. I get that. But that's something that you can develop, that you can grow over time. I don't know if they're truly pushing towards that.
What's the last decent quarterback that won Super Bowl?
Last decent? You mean like decent, not like great?
Yeah. Not even good, just decent.
Just decent?
Use the word decent. He's decent at that. He's decent at that.
Joe Flacco?
I would give Joe Flacco above average in certain categories.
I don't know about that one.
I don't know if Lamar Jackson is above average in anything outside of maybe his arm strength. Just with the pass, I don't see it. Like his special thing is the run. His special thing is it's kind of Kansas City like, where Kansas City you're going to stretch them. You know, they know Patrick Mahomes got a big arm. He's going to throw it far. He's going to throw it deep. They're going to stretch the field. So a lot of times, you know, and I've seen that with Cleveland, they have to play back and they have to come up because we know that you're going to look deep first.
Right.
With Baltimore, it's easy to game plan about because, like I said, like I've been saying, if you have to make him be a quarterback, he looks to run. When he looks to stretch you out, he looks to run. He looks for everybody to run deep, and then boom, there's, you know, I got one-on-ones out here, maybe a 3-man rush. Athletically, I can get past most of these guys. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to score more points. Tennessee, they were able to beat them. They were able to beat Tennessee because Tennessee had sort of the same type of game plan. It's just that Tannehill is a better quarterback. He's not the athlete, but he's the better quarterback. I think if Tannehill, like if Lamar Jackson and if he played in Tennessee, it might have been a whole different ball game. And if you switch them quarterback spaces, I think personally Ryan Tannehill may be able to take them. I feel like they'll be at the same spot. Like I said, I have to say this. I feel like if the Ravens and the Titans switch quarterbacks, they'll be at the same exact spot. I just think that just like the game, it was whoever was going to make that big play. Tannehill wasn't capable of making a game-changing play. He's able to have the running game that's going to come. Derrick Henry uses the running game, and then the play action come along with it. The running game needs to get going. If the running game is not going, then Ryan Tannehill is pretty mediocre. If the running game is going, he can look like a superstar for a game or two.
Right.
With Lamar Jackson, he has to run. So it just so happened in that game, it was going to come down to who can make the big play. And Lamar Jackson with his legs could make the big play because the way Tennessee's going to play you, they're going to have to play you back too. But Lamar Jackson, he didn't. It's not like he had good rushing numbers, but it's not like he had a whole bunch of big rushes. He had one huge one and a couple decent ones, but pretty much most of the day he was kind of shut down in the run game too. But that little thing is the difference. It wasn't going to work with Buffalo because they have receivers that's going to make you pay. Josh Allen has developed, and he had the same type of problems. You could argue that Lamar Jackson probably was further along with the pass than Josh Allen was a couple years ago.
Most definitely. And
now you look at Lamar Jackson. Not Lamar Jackson. You look at Josh Allen, and he looks like a Hall of Fame level quarterback at the moment.
I mean, to be honest, they both of their MVP seasons. Well, we don't know if Josh Allen's getting the MVP, but he's looking like how Lamar was that MVP season. Like he's mostly passing. His passing stats probably have risen up like Lamar's did, and he's looking decent.
I say he looked a lot more than decent, better than decent.
All right, yeah, well, way better than decent than he used to be, but still.
But see, and that's the thing with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. They both gonna beat you with their legs. It's just that
I don't know.
Lamar
Can
Jackson
Mahomes really beat you with your legs?
Yes,
with his legs?
absolutely. He just doesn't have to. It brings a balance, and that's what I'm saying. Like Lamar Jackson, it's just the balance doesn't have to get. It's not there. If he gets the balance there, the dude is scary.
Right.
If he can get the balance there, because he has game-changing playmaking abilities. However, you have to still be able to play quarterback because we can stop a running quarterback. That's just it is what it is. Because like I said, it's capped. You need to be able to push the ball down the field. You need to be able to hit the numbers. You need to be able to hit more. Like there's a reason why Andrews was his number one target, because Andrews is a safety blanket. We're talking about a former MVP. Why do you still need to lean so heavily on a safety blanket? Why can't your offense look similar to Kansas City's? They have the same type of layout. It's just they have light. Hollywood is not as fast as Tyreek. He ain't nowhere near that. But
I don't know. I think they close.
Not really. They're fast, but as far as the playmaking ability that comes with that,
I'll give you that. Like
I think
he's a way better athlete or playmaker than.
But what I'm
Hollywood.
saying is he's still light. Like he's diet doctor. Tyreek for real.
That's crazy.
Same with Mark Andrews, but he's more heavily like Travis Kelce gets off. Tyreek Hill gets off. Mark Andrews kind of gets off, and so does Hollywood. Kind of gets off, but you should be able to do more. You got to bring in Dez. I love him. Dez is a competitor. He cares about the game. He loves the game. He seems to all count a great dude. He shouldn't be a number 2 wide receiver, and that'll be.
I mean, but how old is he now? Like 32.
Yeah.
You think he could still be a number 1 receiver?
No, he should be a 3 or 4.
Oh, you
personally?
Okay.
But it's
Willie Snead is technically their number 1.
Technically.
And then Hollywood would be 2.
I would say they arguably they have probably 2 2s and 1 3.
2 2s and 1 3. I mean, Jim or John Hardball. See, you got me saying Jim now.
Bro, it's hard, man.
John, he doesn't like people criticizing his offense right now. He said,
I don't care what he don't like.
He said we could talk about the other 25 teams and talk about what they're not doing to fit somebody's eye. But he said he does understand that they need to develop in the passing game, but he feels like a big physical receiver is what they need.
Yeah. You know who I need?
Who?
Janae. But you got to work with what you got. At the end of the day, you got to work with what you got. So, I mean, you have to figure it out. But you knew that years ago, though. You knew with Lamar Jackson, you needed to put weapons around him and then see what he was going to be able to do with it. The problem is not like, again, if you switch the offenses, you might be talking about Hollywood Brown as a Pro Bowler. If nothing less, an Arton or something like that. Mark Andrews, you're definitely talking about him being a Pro Bowler. It's at some point, it's not about the offense and the pieces around you. It's about the quarterback. Because I can name probably 10 quarterbacks that will take this Ravens offense to a higher level than Lamar Jackson. He's fun to watch. He's special when he's on. He's doing what he's doing. But there's not too many times that I've seen him drop back and pass, and I thought, wow, this dude's special. When I look at him and think he's special, it's when he's dropping back and he's running. That's what I do special. And then he makes a good pass here and there. He's like, oh, I'm running back this, running back that.
I mean, he mostly do it after he has decent passing games, but whenever you see those games, they're against teams that don't have it together.
Yeah, I mean, you can look good with the ugly girl. Like, why do you think some girls hang with the ugly girls? Like, man, she's fine. Why are those her friends? Well, they make her look a whole lot better. Mm-hmm. She's cool by herself, but if you're surrounded by ugly, you look a whole lot cuter. And sometimes that's what happens with Lamar Jackson. Like, I don't want to say I want him to do well because he's in the division. I could care less, but he should be better than where he's at this point in time. And I think that even though he deserved the MVP last year, I still think, again, I had skepticism with him the whole time. And that's mainly has to do with, I feel like he needs to develop more as a quarterback. And I don't think it's the coaching staff. I think it's him, the man. Get in that weight room, get on the field, learn the game. Like Lamar Jackson takes me as a guy that he's done once the season's over. I don't see him out there working out. I may be wrong.
I mean, I wouldn't say that because his first year he was skinnier than his second year. He came out and bulked up. I think he needs to get back to that. I don't know if he did it because this is his third year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he did that over the course of time. I think he probably got a little complacent.
Yeah.
But he definitely got to get back to it because he slightly has diminished from that MVP season.
And that's my point. Like, I don't think he's been out there working with his receivers. I don't think he's been out there trying to get better. I just think that he got the MVP.
Well, he was working with Antonio Brown, wasn't he?
Not like he should have. And what good does that do? You need to work with Hollywood Brown, the guy that's actually on your team.
Well, they were trying to get Antonio Brown. You don't remember that?
I remember them trying to get him, but at the same time, what does that tell you about Antonio Brown? I'm working with you in the offseason. I'm still looking at you like, and it looks like the right decision for him. I mean, of course, Tom Brady is still Tom Brady, but again, that's the difference. That goes to show you that you don't need Lamar Jackson's legs. You need Tom Brady's arm. That's what you need. You need a guy that's going to hit you where you need to be hit and be able to win even when his arm is not hitting. Tom Brady just won a game last weekend, and it wasn't with his arm. But Tom Brady, his presence, the plays that he makes when he needs to make them. If I need a game-winning drive, obviously, and again, Tom Brady's the GOAT, so you can't really necessarily compare it. But I'm going far down that list. I might pick Tannehill before I pick Lamar Jackson as far as taking a game-winning drive. That's a problem if you're an MVP caliber guy. I'm not comparing you to Ryan Tannehill. That's not where your normal comparison comes. That's who they played. But you're up there getting talked with the Patrick Mahomes, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, even the Matt Ryans of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the category that he seems to be put in. And
did you just say the Matt Ryans?
As far as a quarterback, as far as putting up numbers, as far as even him, their team stinks.
Matty Ice is nice.
Matt Ryan can play the quarterback position. Their team just stinks. Again, this is speaking on switching roles. If you switch Matt Ryan with Lamar Jackson, I can guarantee you that the Falcons will be still kind of in the same spot, and the Ravens will be where Baltimore's at this time.
I wouldn't say that.
He's a quarterback. They're doing a lot of that with and then you got to look at the schedule too. The schedule plays a big role. Right. There's a lot of teams. He looked real good against bad teams. He looked real bad against good teams.
I mean, he looked. Yeah, I give you that.
So it's just, Matt Ryan. He's gonna have his days, but he's still going to be able to hit you where you need the ball to hit you. And that's not always the case for Lamar Jackson. He needs to develop, and if he does, he will be scary. But right now, it's just beat me with your legs.
Right.
And that's just not, it's only going to take you so far. So, I mean, I've spent way too much time on Lamar Jackson's legs, but that's an omen about him. You spend way too much time on your legs, something that you will always have until you get old, but not enough time on your arm, something that you're going to need. That's the difference between Lamar Jackson being out the league at 35 and Lamar Jackson still playing at 40, 41, 42.
All right.
That's just my thing with it.
Yeah, well, just a little bit more. It seems the Ravens released Mark Ingram, which, I mean, that was expected to come. They sat him at some point when he got healthy. Yeah,
they released him before they actually released him.
Yeah.
That was just, but you knew that was coming. I mean, honestly, you knew that was coming when J.K. Dobbins came to town. At the time you looked at it.
I wouldn't say you knew it was coming. I at least thought they would have gave him like another season, but when he didn't play the same this season, and then J.K. took over as starter?
Yeah.
At some point, or they started utilizing J.K. and Gus Edwards, then yeah, you definitely could see it.
It's more so, I think, Mark Ingram could probably still play a little bit, but it's the wear and tear. And yeah. I think some of that is the Alabama factor too. Coming from that, you get kind of beat up. It's physical, the SEC, especially in Mark Ingram's time. The SEC was tough. I know he was the Heisman winner. I know he was, balling out of control.
Right.
You're a first-round pick running back. But point being is he spent all those years even over in New Orleans getting hit, you know what I'm saying? Like, later in his career, he became part of a committee backfield, but for the most part, he was the guy. So, I mean, at some point, it's just, you take so many hits, it's going to slow you down. And I think, what kept him around probably this year, too, more than anything, is he's a great locker room guy. Like, you can, and there's something to be said about a guy who's not playing, gets a spot taken, bench, all that, and still roots, you guys on, and still gets the crowd involved, whatever crowd there was out there. Still, keep you guys upbeat, and that's the kind of dude. It makes it hard to get rid of, so I'm sure it wasn't easy, but it was absolutely the right decision. So, I don't want to say that he doesn't have a chance to latch on with another squad because, you look at Frank Gore's and Adrian Peterson's of the world, and you say if they could still have
Frank Gore still looking, at times, still look beastie. So does Mark Adrian Peterson.
True. But Mark Ingram not too, a year removed from being the number one running back on top offense last year.
Right.
So it's not like he's that far from a great year. And Adrian Peterson has some pretty mediocre years before he just, extended his career. So he kind of plays up a little bit. And I mean, like I said, it's the running back, especially the way that they run now. I can see Mark Ingram being somewhere. It's just for $5 million a year. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, he'll land on his feet. If nothing else, I mean, New Orleans reunion could be a thing. I'm not sure with Drew Brees being gone, but, with Kamara, you're going to always kind of need another running back.
I don't know about that. I think he could go to the Bills. The Bills need something.
That's possible.
Because if their run game is dependent on Josh Allen, then he could be like Lamar Jackson in like a year or two.
True. He could take more of a pounding, and I think that's kind of the thing with him. And Lamar and Josh Allen's not necessarily the design runner. He's more so when it breaks down, he can run, and when you need that short yard, he's kind of Cam Newton-esque,
right?
As far as how they use him, Cam Newton, he developed a little bit as a quarterback, but when you needed 1 or 2 yards on the goal line, you just give it Cam Newton jaw. He's big body, 6'5", 2 something. He's gonna get you them yards. So I mean, I think I agree with you. I think Mark Ingram's going to be somewhere where it's going to be by committee. It's going to have to be, but the fit is going to more or less have to be a veteran squad where he can get the touches where he needs to get the touches, but you just can't depend on Mark Ingram to get you 15 to 20 carries. And I think once he gets out of that, and that's what the Ravens needed, somebody that's going to be able to take those hits that they don't want to have Lamar Jackson take. And J.K. Dobbins, he played real good football.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards played
to be
good
honest,
football.
okay, they could have won that game if we won't be honest. All J.K. had to do was catch that pass, and then the defense was playing phenomenal. They could have stopped him.
Yeah, but that's football. It's a play here, it's a play there. So I mean, you can, again, to bring the Browns back up, you can look at the Browns game and say, well, they make this play.
I don't watch the Browns.
If they make that helmet-on-helmet play, it could be a whole different game. However, if that's called helmet-to-helmet, there's no guarantee that Patrick Mahomes gets injured. So with that being said, is the game really close? You know what I'm saying? But that just goes to show you what steps and how many things that go on in a football game that changes the whole landscape of the game. It's the butterfly effect.
Right.
Bring a Boog up. That was a conversation we had earlier about the play. If he made that helmet-to-helmet call, then Patrick Mahomes is probably in a different place at a different time that he doesn't get hurt when he gets hurt. They might be clicking on all cylinders, and you might be looking at a 44-21 game. So that might have been the best thing to happen almost to Cleveland, is that call not being called. But that's just how small the margin is at a football game. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Which that's actually a great segue into this comment. But before we get to that comment, the Ravens also waived RG3. But I mean, that's not really anything to say.
No, I mean they both needed to probably be cut, and they both end up getting a lifeline from the Ravens. So it's kind of one of those things. It was low key, like what makes you laugh makes you cry, kind of things, because wasn't nobody knocking on RG3 door for real
at all.
And Ravens gave him a chance to kind of rejuvenate his career a little bit. And the same with Mark Ingram. I mean, he had a little suitor here and there, but the Ravens rejuvenated his career. So it's more so, we and they've done a great job of that over the years. They're going to get rid of guys when they need to get rid of guys. Sometimes they may get rid of a guy, you scratch your head like, why would they do that? But then you look up and that was the right call. So one thing I will trust is Ravens front office. They know what they're doing. And again, you didn't win with the team that you had. So how much do you really lose? Your quarterback, you cut RG3, but the quarterback you cut wasn't Lamar Jackson. As much as I talked about him, he's still your number one guy, and he's still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So,
right,
and then Mark Ingram, you got J.K. Dobbins, who's fresh and ready to take that ball.
You got J.K., take most of the hits, and then you got Gus Edwards to come in. He's the power back, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this is how it work out.
Yeah, and then, the Ravens, they cut a few other players, but I don't think any of them was really worth mentioning.
No, I mean, and this happens every year too. You have to, renovate your team, especially again if you don't win. A lot of times you have to do it when you do win because guys have played themselves into different kind of contracts, and you're gonna have to replace them. It's the NFL,
right?
And this thing moves quickly.
And also, Lamar Jackson had a note to the fans talking about they'll be back in the playoffs, but they'll be better. So I don't know if he has that mindset, he might put his head down. get back to working.
I would hope
developing
so.
his talent. Yeah,
We're
hopefully.
supposed to say we're gonna get worse. I'm happy he feels like they should be better. I mean, I would agree.
I mean, I don't think he said we'll be back. We'll be better that MVP season, but
I'm looking for my mail Baker. I want to know from Baker too. That's gonna tell me the same thing. We're gonna be back and better than ever. But
that comment was from Jeremy Bellamy, and he said, "How do you feel the Chiefs will do without Patrick Mahomes?" But I think Mahomes is back because I know he practiced light on Tuesday, and I think Wednesday he was full practice.
Well, to answer your question, if he doesn't play, that's the difference between a win and a loss. Because Patrick Mahomes, I mean, obviously we all know he's special. He's just a different breed of a dude, man. So yeah, that's huge. But like you said, I think he's definitely coming back. I'm not sure how bad the concussion was, and I'm not gonna sit here and speak on it because I'm not a doctor. But at the same time, obviously, if you can have him on your team, even if he's not at full strength, Patrick Mahomes at 70% is better than a lot of quarterbacks at 100. So I mean, I definitely think that's gonna help him if he's there. But if something happens and he's not, Chad Henne showed that he can win you a game when it's late and something happens. Chad Henne in 4 quarters in a big game. I'm tell you one thing: if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play and Buffalo loses, that will be probably a bigger disappointment than the 4 Super Bowls they lost. Just because this is your chance. This is your shot. And Kansas City don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon either. So it's kind of like them old Tom Brady years with the Colts. When you had a chance to beat them, you better beat them, because if you don't, they're going to come back with a vengeance. So especially we have seen what Kansas City does after they lose during the playoffs. They come back and they win a championship. So if that so happen again, especially when it's kind of something out of their control, and I know injuries are, I feel like they'll be on the same thing. Andy Reid to have them together. So yeah, I think that's a huge difference. But with all that said, I still think Patrick Mahomes comes back.
Yeah, I do too. And like, plus they said he was back practicing Tuesday and Wednesday. So I'm pretty sure he's back. I mean, they're still probably taking him slow. They're definitely probably going to be running a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably not dependent on him too much. Definitely not going to get him out of that pocket.
No. And I kind of thought that when the game was happening, especially when he ended up getting hurt, I'm thinking already he's running too much.
Right.
I get it that he can move with his legs, but he's kind of running too much. He's getting leveled every time that he's doing that. And that concussion hit, that was the final straw. But that's football too. That's the name of the game. Oh, and by the way, Colin Cowherd, I don't even want to bring him up. You know how much I hate doing it, but man, he's really a dillweed. Come on. They should. Man. He is, man.
Bro, you know why he said that? I said it in the chat. He does that for ratings. Y'all know he do.
If I want to troll, then I'll get on the internet and look at a troll.
But why, bro? He has a syndicated television and radio show. Why?
That's because a lot of people like to listen to idiots.
He get paid to just say whatever and draw. If he brings ratings, Fox is not about to be like, nah.
With no knowledge, like that's just stupid though.
I mean, he got knowledge.
I can't tell. I really can't.
Come on, man.
Every time I hear him, he says something just outlandishly dumb.
I mean, but every time you gotta look at it like Patrick Mahomes he draws in attention. He brings in money.
Football's still the name of the game.
Hey,
that's what happens. If you're going to push the game, so time out. You're going to tell me that you're not, as a Brown fan, that's going to really make me mad. If that's the case, push everything back until Beckham plays.
I mean,
what's stopping you? Why don't we just put a pause to the whole season?
Odell don't bring in the draw like Patrick Mahomes does.
No wide receiver is going to ever bring in the draw as a quarterback, but point still being, the Browns will look a lot better if they have Odell Beckham.
I don't know about that.
No, that's your argument, but no, they will definitely. And Andrew Berry said it himself. Like, that's a guy that you put on the field. He kind of squashed the trade room situation too, even though I think the injury was kind of going to squash that regardless. But point still being, at the end of the day, if you're opening up a different can of worms, and that's not even talking about COVID. We're just talking about Beckham, which obviously is a pipe dream of that actually happening because he's not that close to returning at all. However, that COVID situation, even they won the Pittsburgh game. Granted, they gritted it out. It was a tough one, whatever. Same time, the NFL, if you're going to push anything back, which I still don't even know why I'm giving it this much time on this show, but if you're going to push it back,
All right.
you should probably push it back for COVID. But you're not going to push it back for COVID. But, Patrick Mahomes gets a concussion. Let's push it back because of ratings. That tells you how dumb Colin Cowherd is and where his focus is. It's not about the game. It's not about football. It's not about the sport. It's not about who wins or loses. It's about freaking ratings. I could care less about ratings. Obviously, we're doing this show.
I'm just gonna say this: the fact that he got you like that, that's exactly why he said that.
That's dumb though. That's just
Bro,
I'm like this because he's a troll, and I feel like as somebody who does this, you should be giving out knowledge to people because not everybody is where you're at as far as the knowledge. You have the platform.
Well, I mean, you got to build it up. He's already there. When you kind of think on it, he knows how polarizing he is. So at times he has to bring in that draw. That what is he talking about? Draw.
That's stupid. So Cowherd is basically where rap music is right now.
Basically,
you could
say basically everything is like that now.
Yeah, that's and again, I'm old school, so I'm always going to look at that.
If anything, he probably agrees with you way more behind closed doors than he would publicly because he's also old school.
Put it on public. Because now you got all these people that look up to you and listen and watch your show that don't know that you're an idiot and repeat everything that you say. So now I have to go out there and listen to these idiots, and that offends me because I'm wasting too much time, even on my own show, talking about Colin Cowherd. I want to do it with him. I want to be mano y mano, 1-on-1, me and him debating. I want to know his sports knowledge. How often does he even watch games? Because me listening to him, I could tell he doesn't watch too many games.
That's crazy. That's crazy you say that because I do follow him on Twitter, and he was watching the inauguration. He was talking about a free concert on CNN. And then he was like, all right, back to the sports world. What's happening? Like,
he's a fool. Next subject. I'm tired of him already.
All right, let's talk about the Browns, man. So, what was it, 17-22 with the Browns?
I think so. You have to bring it up.
Yeah, I think it was 17.
I'm always off the top.
So, with them scoring, I think, 17 points, giving a little scare to, I guess you could say, the Chiefs, the defending champs, they gave a little scare to them. How is it looking for the future? Because right now I'm looking at the fact that they have these big off-season contracts they got to talk about, or decisions they got to make with Terrence Mitchell, Andrew Sendejo,
gone.
B.J. Goodson, Oliver Vernon, Carl Joseph, Larry Older. I can never say his last name.
Ogunjobi.
There you go. Kevin Johnson, Malcolm Smith, Rashad Higgins, like. They got these contracts to talk about. Then they got this future that's looking bright for them. Like, how we really looking at it?
I don't think not too many of the guys that you mentioned are going to break the bank. So it's pretty much you can bring back who you want to bring back.
Definitely not Sendejo, if we're going to be honest.
No, Sendejo is going to be sent packing. But Sendejo was only there because Delpit got hurt for the season. So it's more so the Browns are really going to, the same thing.
Also, before you go off, well, this is more Steelers news, but it still has to do with the Browns. It seems
Hugh Jackson.
Yeah, Hugh Jackson's interviewing for that OC.
Ooh.
Which, I mean, that could be a scary sight because for the Bengals, he was something.
No, I mean, Hugh Jackson can coach.
Right.
What I'm looking at is Baker Mayfield and Hugh Jackson. That's the thing. Bring him in the division. By all means, I'm cool with that.
You're going to bring him in the division, bring him back home.
I mean,
snap.
I think it was the Marvin connection. How do you still get? How does she still get you? I don't get it.
I don't get it either, bro.
Your focus got to be Legend Sharp, brother. It just has to be.
I guess it does.
But Hugh, I think his Cincinnati ties, that was more so a Marvin Lewis thing. So I think with Marvin Lewis no longer being there, it kind of takes that out the way, and he might just want to be in that division.
Right.
Sometimes, that's the fit. And Hugh Jackson kind of has to get back to that he can coach thing again. Because, again, this is the world that we live in. It's more so, what have you done for me lately? Shout out to Janet. And the last time you seen Hugh Jackson was Cincinnati, but it wasn't. That was average. But where people
average.
The last time when he came back, after he got fired from Cleveland.
Oh, that's different. He came at like a special advisory role.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying that was the last time Hugh Jackson was really on the sidelines and really coaching. But before that, he was the head coach for the Browns and 1-31.
I mean,
so
the Browns was trash.
Yeah, absolutely. But the way the perception is 30-something years of Hugh Jackson being a great football coach went out the window because he had that stretch with the Browns where they stunk up the joint.
Right.
But freaking Bill Belichick, who has been fired by the Browns organization, by the way, couldn't have came in and did a better job, and neither could have any of the coaches that were coaching in any of those 3 years.
I mean, when you think on it, they took his team away, and they was what I can't forget what the record was, but it was a decent record when they took his team away.
I mean, but he did it to himself too, though. Getting into it with Todd Haley, and it was it was more locker room stuff, more behind the scenes stuff than it was actually because everybody could see that they were kind of trending upwards. Right. I think Freddie Kitchens came in and kind of blew it all the way up, but the trajectory was moving forward. But still, their perception of Hugh Jackson is not favorable. People tie him to that. I'm not sure that the Steelers are going to get him a better look. But knowing Ben's coming back, knowing you still going to have pretty much some of the same pieces, you got to think we're talking about Hugh Jackson. So him being in that division, him seeing Ben as much as he's seen him being a great coach, in his mind he probably feels like I can fix Ben. I can make Ben into what Ben used to be for at least this last couple of years. So I can see why it looks good to him. I still want to see it just because of the Baker dynamic and seeing him in that division. So that's something to look forward to if that does happen. I think, I still think he was a good coach. I was one of the people that thought he was, and just like most people, Hugh became a pinata because of his Browns run. But when Hugh got hired, there were so many people happy about that hire because he could coach. So I do think he got an unfair shake. Some of it was his fault, some of it wasn't. But the whole dynamic of, that division, and I like a little competition. I like a little chip on the shoulder. I like Baker with a chip on the shoulder. So anything that adds to that on him, I'm all for it as a Brown fan. So yeah, bring Hugh over to Pittsburgh. That's just where I'm at with it. So
all right. Also, when I said they took his team away, I was more talking about Belichick than I was Hugh Jackson. But they took his team away too at some point. And they were kind of trending up when they took his team away, but it was kind of stuck in between.
Yeah, I mean, but it's kind of that way anyway. Like the coach that come in doing the start of the rebuild, 9 times out of 10 ain't the one that finishes it. No matter who you are, he was there to take a whole lot of losses.
Unless you Zach Taylor, then somehow you holding on. I don't know how.
I mean, their trajectory is moving up.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things. It's just. But football is one of them sports, too, where, you're looking at, again, like I said, Marvin Lewis didn't get a job, but Marvin Lewis was trending upwards as far as a candidate this year, even though 2 years ago, you're talking like Marvin Lewis was one of the worst coaches ever. That was just a perception. I don't think he did that much at Arizona State to change the perception. It's just that he was off the grid for a little bit. I think Bill O'Brien is going to be Alabama's offensive coordinator. You know why he's doing that? Because he's going to be wildly successful over there, and then he's going to get another shot, just like Sarkisian. Sarkisian was an alkie. Sarkisian was somebody that screwed up, that cost to his program. Gets fired, lands on his feet at Alabama. They stop kicking him while he's down because he's over there in Alabama. He's kind of shielded from the media at that first year. Then he becomes a genius offensive coordinator again. Then now he's a head coach. That's the way these things go. So as long as you're around success, and I think that's something that he was looking at, is being around a level of success that is going to help him out. So it is what it is. That's football. Every year is different. Legitimately, you can be at the top of the league and be at the bottom the very next year with very little change. You could be at the bottom and then go to the top again with very little change. So football is more so things on a string. So it's always a move here and move there to change the whole dynamic. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll see. Also, your Browns, they made your mans happy. Joe Thomas, in his final, is Cup of Joe his podcast?
Might be. I know he had one with Andrew Hawkins.
I don't know, but it said in the final Cup of Joe, so I'm guessing that's his podcast. He explained how the team proved him wrong and why he's never been happier about it. You know, I mean, he was what, a Browns for life, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So
he can put on a couple more of them old pounds back and come on over.
Nah, he's not doing that.
Play some tight end. The way he looking now, all stealth and stuff. All right, Joe, ready to hit the gym. Get a couple snaps. We probably ain't gonna have Njoku no more. So yeah, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of great to see Joe Thomas happy. It'd be like the same way if Andrew Whitworth, how he's sometimes happy with the Bengals and their progress. It's just happy to see that, especially when they gave a good amount of their career to that team.
Yeah. You know, you feel some type of way about teams, so I can get it, and that's nice to see that. You know, and again, you know, often you hear in the media you're not necessarily keep your fandom not unbiased and all that, but it's good to see that you can still be a fan and still be unbiased. I feel like a lot of times fans of the teams, especially doing media, if they really try, you can be unbiased. You can be critical of your team. You know, I feel like I'm critical of the Browns on here. If they're wrong and they do bad, I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I might joke around and mostly seem down about the Bengals, but if you really got into a serious conversation with me, I could be objective. I'm mostly not going to be serious, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
I mean, that's a lot of fans aren't, but we're not just fans either. You know what I mean? We study the game the way it needs to be studied, so it's just one of those things.
Who are you waving at? That's
Sonya, man. Look, I mean, I show love around here.
My bad, bro.
Hey.
I can't see.
It's love in this window over here.
I can't see till they pop up in the window and then they scare me, man.
Scared of our own people.
That's not my fault.
Power to the people.
All right, with that, we going on break. That's cool.
Dang, we got to take a break after our power to the people?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You said I was scared of them, then power to the people. We got to take a break now.
You working for the man.
Yeah, hey, somebody got to do it. All right, but see y'all in a minute. What's good, man? Why you looking at it?
I'm game ready. I'm game ready.
It was just the way you was looking up there, like.
Because I already know, man. I know you get down. I knew there's a high chance you was about to hit the start of it.
It's never my fault. It's not like.
How's it never your fault? You literally the one that pushes the button.
It's not like it tells me when it's about to end.
You should see it enough.
I mean, yeah. But, you know, we back. Nutty North back. Presented by Mojo Sports Gear. I know y'all saw that commercial. Make sure you go to Mojo for all your sports gear. You know, get everything you need. I know y'all saw the Theater People commercial, so make sure y'all check them out if you need something installed. I know y'all saw that new Score on Air social right there. So, you know, check Score on Air out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that. Just make sure y'all get love to Score on Air. You know, we always got to get love to where we started at. We still here, but, you know.
Started at the bottom, we still here.
But, yeah. And if y'all want to do what we do, you know, look at the, what's the website for Ohio Media School? Is it just Ohio Media?
I think it's Be On Air.
Yeah, Be On Air. Yep. Like, look it up. Hit up Nakia. The address is, what, 5330
East Main Street.
Main Street. I'm starting to get my handle back on what I used to say and everything coming back after break. But, you know, y'all just going to have to, patience, bro. Patience. You know, I'm a little out of it. But we back and we about to start some.
Tongue got you tied, huh?
We back and we about to talk some Steelers. All right, we about to talk some Steelers. We gotta talk about them a little bit. I mean, we don't like the trash can over in Pennsylvania, but somebody gotta talk about it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's us.
Unfortunately, it's us. It seems that not only are the Steelers visiting with Hugh Jackson or in talks with Hugh Jackson, but they're also in talks with Dwayne Haskins, you know, former Ohio State Buckeye quarterback, former Washington football team quarterback who just got waived, in the middle of the season or at the end?
Towards the tail end of it.
Yeah, towards the tail end. But it seems they're also, you know, or he's visiting the Steelers. He's in talks. And I feel like at some point on this show, I definitely said he fit perfect with the Steelers. But what you thinking on that, T?
It's the Jameis Winston treatment. It's the same thing.
They're just going to hand him a clipboard, huh?
Yeah, hand him a clipboard. Teach him how to play quarterback again with guys who know how to coach. So,
right.
You know, as much as I hate the Steelers organization, they run a great organization. I mean, it is what it is. There's a reason why they've been around the top, even though they won a championship in a whole lot of years. You hear too much about those previous ones, but I ain't seen one in the recent history.
Yeah,
but I'm going to try to be unbiased for a minute.
How could you? They used to talk about being six bird, but Tom Brady got 6 of those by himself. Took y'all a minute. He got 6 of them this year.
But them in that towel,
this decade,
that's all they care about is that towel. But nah, I mean, again, I think if reports are true, I'm not big on lip reading and all that, but from the videos, they're saying Drew Brees looked at Jameis Winston and said, "Oh, this is your team now." If that's the same thing, I could see the Steelers doing that with Haskins, because you kind of have
hold up. He said that to Jameis over
allegedly. I'm not. Like I said, I'm not into lip reading.
I mean, Taysom Hill did decent when Drew Brees was out.
Yeah, but so did Teddy Bridgewater, and then what did he do with his own team?
I mean, but Teddy that's kind of different.
Not really. Teddy's a better quarterback.
I mean, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, Teddy is the better quarterback in a way. But also, he went, 5-0?
Yeah, but it was plug and play.
Yeah, true.
So it was one of those things where
Awesome Taysom, he don't got an arm. I'm not gonna lie. His arm was deflated.
He was good for where he was good for. You can play a few games. If he needed to play a whole season, you had a whole off season. You had the game plan around him, and you didn't have the offensive threats that you normally have with the Saints. It probably would have been a different ball game. But Jameis Winston is more of the quarterback. Jameis Winston still was a great quarterback if he could cut down to 30 turnovers.
I mean, he got the LASIK, whatever.
Well, let's hope he can see the field better.
Let's hope he can see.
Because if he can, then you still have a former number one quarterback.
I mean, he could have been like Eric Dickerson, with the glasses. He could have did that.
Touche.
But
I mean, he being blind got him to being the number one pick. So if that does work, and then, who knows, that could have worked wonders, getting the eyes together and then having somebody that actually coached you and you didn't have to go out there and play. You learn it from Drew Brees every day. You learn it from Sean Payton every day. You have weapons. You have, guys that know how to win. You have a lot going for you in New Orleans. And Jameis Winston, I felt like needed to be broken down and kind of built back up again. Same thing with Dwayne Haskins. I think Haskins was picked high. And him being picked high kind of forced teams to have to play him. And, you can turn into this DeShone Kizer real quick in this NFL. And I think that's kind of where Dwayne Haskins is he's looking at. If I don't get it together, I can be the next DeShone Kizer. I know Kizer was drafted a little bit later, but still was a lot of optimism about him. He had a lot of pro tools that, fit the bill. He just stunk up the joint.
That's crazy. I haven't heard DeShone Kizer in a minute.
You see my point?
DeShone Kizer, wasn't he before Deshaun Watson on Houston? Or wait,
no, DeShone Kizer was on the Browns, and then
was he on the Browns?
Yeah, he was the quarterback for the 0-16 years. That's what I'm saying. Like, he was a great prospect. He stunk up the joint. Now he's going to hold probably a clipboard for the rest of his career, if he has a career. And Dwayne Haskins, and that was minus off-field problems like that. Dwayne Haskins had some off-the-field problems, and he stunk up the joint when he played. So it's more so, it's something telling about a guy when your team gets better when you're no longer around. That doesn't bode well for you. So sometimes guys like that have to get broken down and kind of built back up. And I think that, you can only do that in a stable spot. Like, we can bring RG3 up, for example. I know he wasn't no world beater, but he played for the Browns before he went to the Ravens. The Browns were just a dysfunctional organization at the time, and he wasn't going to be able to develop, and he didn't have strong veterans, a strong coaching staff, and none of that around him, and he almost disappeared. The Ravens threw him a lifeline, and now he's a serviceable backup quarterback. He has that on his resume that he backed up former MVP. That was RG3. That's a huge step from where he just was. But the NFL, especially when you're a black quarterback, I mean, that's always the elephant in the room. Black quarterback and black head coaches are the same as far as the leash. The leash ain't that long, and they're ready to call you a nuisance. They're ready to call you a locker room cancer and a problem and all this, that, and the third. So Dwayne Haskins, he's right there in that mode where they have to recreate him. So you only can do that when you're not expected to play. And I think, again, Jameis Winston, he didn't play really too much. And the one time you did see Jameis Winston, threw a long touchdown. That's the lasting image you're going to have of Jameis Winston for this year, is him throwing a bomb, showing he can still do his thing right there. So if Dwayne Haskins could take that year off, learn how to play a quarterback, get a chance to sit behind a great, and Big Ben is still that. He's still a former great. If he
I mean, but does Big Ben want to teach?
he don't have to teach. Big Ben is about to be out that door. So as your quarterback shouldn't be your best teacher anyway. Your quarterback just helps take it to that next level. Your quarterback is like putting cherries on a cheesecake. You know, you can eat a cheesecake and it's still gonna be delicious without any type of toppings on it. But you throw some cherries on that cheesecake, man, it's gonna take it to the next level.
I ain't gonna lie, I don't like cheesecake, so that definitely went over my head. But I see where you going from.
Tiny guy, if you're watching, I could definitely use another producer, one that I can trust, because I don't know. You already got an afro. That's the strike against you. Lucky you got facial hair, because if you didn't, I really couldn't trust you. And you don't like cheesecake? Bro, I don't know, man. I really don't know. You done threw me off with the, man, you should have told me this before we got on air, bro. How you
I didn't know you was gonna use cheesecake as an analogy.
I mean, I didn't either, but I feel like that's something that you should share before we we should even do this together. You know, I have to know I can trust the guy. I can't trust the guy that don't like cheesecake.
That's crazy.
Anyway, man, they got cake in the building. Hold on. Speaking of cake,
as long as it's not cheesecake.
Oh, if it's cheesecake, I need parts. Anyway, point being is you throw that extra topping on it, it takes you to that next level for people unlike you. But you don't necessarily need it to still be delicious, and you don't necessarily need your quarterback to care and be, you know, Aaron Rodgers turned out just fine, and Brett Favre didn't want to help him at all. So you don't actually have to have that happen, but it would be nice if it did. Hopefully, being in his about to kick the bucket years, knows that, you know, this is my predecessor, and if he cares about the Steelers organization, he knows he's the next guy up, just like Drew Brees did. He's going to train. He's going to be around him. He's going to be a veteran leader. If not, what does it matter anyway? All this does for the Steelers, and why I think this is a great move, it gives you a young quarterback to develop, still on that rookie contract, and you don't have to reach for a quarterback now. It doesn't mean that you don't have to take one. If, you know, there's a guy that you like early where you're picking, you can go for him. Or if there's a guy you feel like you need to trade up for, you can still do that. But Dwayne Haskins costs you not that much to have him on your roster. You know, it doesn't hurt to take a flyer on him. And if all else fails and Big Ben doesn't do what he's supposed to do, you have at least a quarterback with starting experience and was a high pick. So you can see what he does around a different organization, and maybe he shows up and shows out. So, I mean, I think it's a great move for Pittsburgh if they decide to go that route. I'm mad at it for it.
Okay. All right. Now, I do have some questions on the show notes, but I just got one thing to say real quick. It seems the Bengals are having they're changing their jerseys for one, which I don't know. I don't know why that should be such a big thing.
Do they have the picture of the jersey, or are they just saying it?
No, they're just saying it. They're saying spring 2021 they're gonna have a new jersey. So I guess they're retiring all the old ones.
I mean, they never really retire them. I just think that they'll become more like a novelty.
Like a novelty, all that. Because it said, I think like the modern ones that they got right now, or the ones they got right now was like 2016 to 2020. So for 4 years they were those. Now they changing. But that wasn't why I brought up the Bengals. Why I brought up the Bengals is there's this article from Ben Baby, ESPN staff writer, that says, when you look at the 4 teams in the playoffs, it may explain why the Bengals, who haven't won a playoff game in 30 years, is retaining a coach that only had 6 wins in 2 seasons, because this is the type of foresight that Cincinnati saw with this offensive evolution. How like the Bills they could put up numbers on you. You know, Green Bay could put up numbers on you. Tampa Bay could put up numbers. Kansas City could put up numbers. And like other than what Tampa Bay, each team really, or the Bills also, like Green Bay doesn't have that great of a defense.
No.
They can't really stop the run. We saw that a year ago, and they ain't really improved on that. Kansas City, they show they can they can make stops at times, but I mean, we saw in that Super Bowl, like they almost got blown out the water, but they came back. So
unless their offense, their defense doesn't. Like they need the offense to be explosive for the defense to be what it is.
In Tampa Bay, I mean, their defense is young, but their defense is also real feisty.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, Tampa Bay has a great defense. The Bills, I mean, I think their secondary is their weakest part. Or is it their strength? I can't remember what's their strength.
I mean, they're pretty balanced all the way around, but I
Right.
guess if you would have a weakness, I would know.
Because I think some quarterbacks did pick their defense apart at some point.
I would say it's more on the linebackers per se.
All right, so that's kind of how Cincinnati always is, the linebackers, sometimes the secondary. But that seems to be what the Bengals is going for. Just that high octane, that high explosive offense. And when you kind of looked at when Joe Burrow was our quarterback, he liked to be 5 wide?
Yeah.
No backfield. So, yeah. So I just wanted to get your mind on that.
Well, I mean, the talent's there. And sometimes it's the continuity that really takes you to that next level. Joe Burrows, I feel like the more he would have played, the better the offense would have been. They're still just like, again, we talked about the Browns. Like, I never thought the Browns were going to go into 0-16 straight into the playoffs. It's a process that you have to get to. And with the Bengals, I think it's the same thing. They have to be familiar with who they have. At this point, you're at that level where I can draft anybody, but I feel secure in most places. Well, not most places, but a lot of places. Like, you don't necessarily need a wide receiver, but you can take one if he's there. You don't necessarily need another running back, but, man, if there's one good enough there, you can take him. You need left tackles, guards, all that. But your offense is a lot further along, especially with a head coach that's offensively, supposed to be an offensive guy.
I mean, he was a QB coach, but he's supposed to be offensive minded.
Yeah, that's his thing, but that helps you with, like I said, the continuity. You don't have to come and learn a new system. You don't have to do too much. And the defense, I feel like that's something that, if you can focus solely on that defense, if your offense is good, the defense, you can kind of plug and play a couple spots and still have a pretty good defense. You need your offense because your offense is more of a unit. So, just imagine if we can give Pittsburgh offensive line to Cincinnati. That right there might turn Cincinnati into a 7-win team if you still got a healthy Joe Burrows and the weapons that you have. So I can agree with, letting guys grow. And at some point, like we talked about earlier on the show a few weeks ago, the Bengals are an attractive destination already. And they're still at the bottom kind of their rebuild. So if Zach Taylor's not the guy and they don't show nothing this year, they're going to look to make a move, and that's going to be an appealing job because you're already kind of there. And once a good head, you just see with the Browns what a great head coach can do for you. It can take you from the borderline basement to almost the top. There's a lot of people that didn't think the Browns were going to do what the Browns did this year. And the biggest change I felt like outside of, a couple of their tackles, they had their head coaching change. So I can agree with that. I can understand, that thought process. And this is the new NFL too, where offense is always going to win. It's just, it is what it is with that. Another reason that's a big indictment on Lamar Jackson, because the game is meant for the offense to put up high numbers and high scores. So when you're held to 3 points during a playoff game, that's a real big problem. So for the Bengals, I mean, they had their struggles offensively, but I think most of their struggles came when they didn't have Joe Burrows. The offense was built around Joe Burrows. So if you get the right pieces around them, that should be a lot of sustained success, especially the more you deal with that quarterback, the more you deal with that head coach. Again, you can look at Sean Payton and Drew Brees. They had a long marriage together, because they grew together.
I think that's what a lot of people were comparing Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow to. At least it can be like that.
Yeah, it definitely can. And you have time frames where this, you had down years for Drew Brees and the Saints too. So their offense was still on par. Their offense was still doing their thing, but they just needed to plug and play a guy here and there to have their defense going, and that made them a perennial playoff contender. And the Bengals is the same thing. And again, you see the Steelers at least should be coming down. So somebody's gonna have to, get up there.
Somebody's going to have to rise up.
The Ravens, if they don't fix their quarterback situation and Lamar Jackson doesn't get it together and they don't put the pieces around them, they may not be at the bottom, but they can have an 8-8, 9-7 year, and that division is tough.
Right.
If they would have been that record this year, they would have made the playoffs. They would have had a still pretty decent year, but they wouldn't have made the playoffs. So it's just about, getting what you came in there for and giving the guy a real chance. I think you got to throw away the first couple of years of Zach Taylor anyway. Now let's see what you can do with an offense that clicks, and if you don't do anything with this, it ain't them, it's you. So
definitely. I think I said it maybe his first year. I was like, we give him 2 years at best or 3 years, and if he don't really do it in that, then we could look for another head coach or another.
Yeah, and that job is going to be
rebuilt. It's
going to be way more appealing to the new head coach than it was at the start of when he came there. So it's just kind of, that's what you're there for, though.
It's kind of like what you said. What did you say about not keeping the rebuild coach or something?
Sometimes the coach that starts to rebuild it, he's just not gonna finish it.
Yeah,
he's the one that takes the losses. It's kind of like
you kind of look Hugh Jackson. I think that's what you mentioned in that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's kind of like in wrestling, that jobber that never wins. Sometimes that has to happen to make the other wrestler look good.
Right.
You need somebody. You need a Brooklyn Brawler for. I don't know if The Rock was wrestling around that time. Well, Brooklyn Brawler stay getting beat down. But, you need the Brooklyn Brawler for The Rock to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, The Rock looks a whole lot better once he starts beating the Brooklyn Brawler. Then you'll get tired of seeing him beat the Brooklyn Brawler. Now he has to move on, so on and so forth. So it's kind of one of those things. You have to take the beatings. That first head coach at the start of the rebuild is like having you have brothers and sisters, and there always has to be one that goes out there and gets the whipping first. And if you're the third or fourth kid, you might then have everybody, whoever was giving you the whipping, they probably worn out by now. Whip 3 kids. By the time you get to the fourth one, it's a couple smacks here and there, but you on your way. So
I don't know where this went to. I was going to throw in, like, you could have talked about Golden State and what's his name, Martin Jackson.
Don't tell me how to analogy my analogies.
Like I'm like, where is this going? He brought in the Brooklyn Brawler and all that other stuff. I'm like, golly, man, could have kept it a little bit more modern with the wrestling.
I'm not watching modern wrestling.
See, that's what we need Logan.
That's
for.
Logan, man. That's your thing. I mean, I keep an eye out on it, but man, I ain't sitting there watching 3 hours of that crap. I'm cool. AEW. I can do that. But see, most of the casual fans, they don't know nothing about no AEW. They going to, but still, man. Point being is, sometimes that's the case, and that's probably why this is another topic, but Deshaun Watson probably wants to dip. He knows that that's not going to be an appealing job. He knows that they don't have a lot to go for, and if you're that head coach to take that job, that's why that job ain't been filled yet. You take that job, man, you're probably not going to be there 3-4 years. Somebody they're going to be, they're going to blame it all on you, even though that their front office and they might lose their quarterback and all that. They're still going to blame it on you because they kind of look at it like no matter what, you still should win. If we give you a team that probably should be 1-31, you probably should be 7. Have 7 wins, 8 wins. That's probably how they looked at Hugh Jackson. So I mean, it is what it is. That's the game. It's unfair sometimes, but life ain't fair.
Yeah. Okay. So would I forgot to start the recording. Whatever. But with all that said, because I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I had a question about with the Browns on the rise. They're looking at this success. More than likely, this success is going to keep going, and the Ravens kind of in a standstill, but they continue to see some form of success with Lamar in that offense. And then now you got the Steelers slightly on the decline, with Big Ben on their back 9. And the Bengals they're just starting to figure out their rebuild. How you see this division in like a few years?
Well, in a few years, I still think, obviously you have to go with the teams with the young quarterbacks, right. Young core. So Browns, Ravens, Bengals, whatever order. Because I still think Joe Burrow's the real deal.
Right.
It's going to come down to, I wouldn't be surprised if the division looks a lot like it did this year, just with different teams. You know, I mean,
So you mean like a different team at the top?
yeah, like I can see 11-4, or excuse me, 12-4, 11-5, 11-5, 6-10. You know what I'm saying? Like 5-11, 13-3, 12-4.
Who's 6-10 and who's 5-11 at this point?
I don't. I'm just saying, like, the division is tough.
Okay.
It's one of those when I don't think nobody's going anywhere anytime soon. Like even the Steelers, their big thing is going to be quarterback, but at least for next year, you still gonna have Big Ben. You know, Big Ben stunk up the joint at the end of the year. However, he was still the quarterback of a team that won 11 straight. So he can still win at a high level. He can still do his thing in this NFL. So it's going to fluctuate. You know, it wouldn't surprise me, even though I hate to say it. I definitely don't want to see it happen. The Browns could be 6-10. The Bengals could be 6-10. The Ravens, the Steelers, any one of those teams could be 6-10 because different things happen. You're an injury here, injury there, away from your whole situation being blown up. So that division ain't playing no violin when it hits the fan for you. So you're definitely gonna have to deal with it.
Well, say Dwayne Haskins is the future for the Steelers, and he actually is playing better. Say Joe Burrow gets to play a full season with a decent offensive line protecting him. Say Lamar gets his passing game together, and Baker's still on the row. There's no longer no Baker Manziel. He's mostly between Baker Mayfield, Baker Montana, as you like to say. Say everything just firing on all cylinders, like, and where do you truly see it? Like, or where do you hypothesize, or where do you think it could be?
If that's the case, then I see the Browns being the top.
Being the top,
yeah, talent-wise, the Browns have the better roster. I feel like, and youth. I don't think as good as the Browns were this year. I don't think a lot of the guys hit their peak yet. Even Myles Garrett, I think Myles Garrett, he played great football, but I still think he could be a lot better than what he was. And that's just more so speaking to his talent level. I think if you get another DN around him that's not Olivier Vernon, who was a great player in his own right, but he's not a game changer anymore. You put somebody like that around him, you get that defense together, Myles Garrett is going to be on a whole nother level than he already is. Baker Mayfield, you didn't have Beckham. And again, you have your qualms about it, and I respect that because the numbers have shown that.
All right.
But just looking at the games, you're trying to force feed him the ball. If they can, let the game happen, like there was no Beckham outburst or anything like that. I think Beckham, if anything, he's upset about, when they lose. Anybody's going to be upset when you don't get the ball. If you win and you got 3 catches, 25 yards, I'm pretty sure Beckham's happy about that. I don't think he would rather take a 7-catch, 150-yard, 2 TD loss game. So I think once you add him, and again, I agree with Andrew Berry. You're a better team with Beckham around and Landry on that team, with Hooper, with Chubb, with Hunt. You can't beat that. But, that's just on a talent level. You add different pieces around it. You get another year Stefanski, and, now he doesn't have to coach Baker as much. Now Baker is an extension of him. I think he can take it, to the top.
That's a scary future.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Browns at the top. I'm not saying it's scary because of the talent. I'm saying that's scary because, like, when are we living in? Upside down world?
We living in the real world. That's what it is. Like, this is the real world. I'm talking about the real world.
But, I see where you're coming from. I can see the Browns at the top, especially with that talent. If they can get it together. If he stops feeding or force feeding Odell the ball, and it's just natural.
And this should humble him.
It is with every other receiver he got.
I feel like this should humble Beckham too. You know what I'm saying? And he still was pretty engaged at the end of it, so it's not like if you watch him, he's working out.
It's not like he didn't have games where they seemed like the chemistry was good. Like that first game against the Browns, like that was a decent game with both of them in there. Or the Bengals, I mean, that was a decent game with both of them.
Yeah,
chemistry seemed decent.
And I was watching, I think it was a Terrell Owens podcast, and he was talking about I think he's talking to Randy Moss, and they were talking about no, it was the Warren side was talking to Shannon Sharp, and he was talking about back in the day when they had Randy Moss, and Andrew Walter wouldn't throw the ball. He wouldn't pull the trigger on Randy Moss. And it was like, well, Randy's not open. He's like, no, Randy's open. Just throw him the ball. I think Beckham is the same type of player. You don't have to force the ball to him.
All right.
But there's times where you can see, what's not necessarily open for Beckham, that's open for Beckham, where you can get the ball where you're still going through your progression and you're doing what you need to do. I think sometimes Peoples-Jones not look like Beckham, but he gave you a glimpse of what Beckham could look like. You would look at Peoples-Jones and see him doing his thing, but man, if that's Beckham, that's a whole different kind of entity. You know what I'm saying? This 70 yards goes into 140 if it's type, Beckham, if you're just letting it happen naturally. You can't really force it. And I think that, once they see that, and now they kind of know how it is to have so many mouths to feed and how to divvy up the ball. That was something Njoku didn't, like. That there was so many mouths to feed, how I'm going to get mine. He ended up getting his because you have to let things come naturally. You get open, you'll get the ball. So I just think that if those things happen, and again, in your ideal world, everything's happening the right way. Right. So that puts the Browns there. The Ravens, I mean.
And I'm not going to lie, before you go on, like, what you was saying right there, like, that's what I was just trying to say the whole time about Joe Burrow, A.J. Green, just all that. Because the Bengals also got, like, a whole lot of mouths to feed. They got a whole lot of talent in that receiver core. And if he just let it come to him, like, there was still mistakes with Brandon Allen at quarterback. But the one thing I did see is that he let AJ be AJ at times.
Yeah. He got better as the season went on, too.
Right.
He just, you're limited offensively. It is what it is.
I feel like if you bring AJ back just for another year and you let that relationship with Joe Burrow develop, that whole receiving core is just going to be amazing.
It could be. I just think that they're at a point that they need to, kind of get guys that's going to be on the same page and they're moving forward. Just like Carson Palmer did, when he first came in, you needed to get him Chad Johnson.
Right.
And then they could grow together. Husmanzada came along. Oh, excuse me. Same thing with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to lie. Carson's later years when he had Chad and Terrell at one point. Like, he had both of them at one point. Like, the team actually did fairly decent.
Yeah.
With both of them. And that's two number one receivers that you got to feed.
Now imagine he started with both of them and they was able to grow and develop to the point that, a lot of football is just a feel. So you know where I'm going, I know where you're going, I can hit you where I need to hit you.
Right.
But they just need to get that right mix to them. And, they got Joe Mixon. You got to get the line together. So they could be moving forward.
Right, yeah. So.
But, I mean, with the Ravens, the same thing. I think the Ravens, you can be a playoff contender or you can be a championship contender. Right. I think that's the difference with Lamar Jackson is he can keep him in a playoff contention, but if things break the right way, that's talking championship contention, and that's him getting in that quarterback room, learning the things here, and he can apply them here. If he can get there, then I can see them being the second team. The Steelers, I still think, even if Dwayne Haskins gets to where he needs to get to,
they probably had like the most problems.
Yeah, I don't like their roster, and I'm still in that TI stuff, man. Like, you gonna have to show me. Until you show me, I'm not talking about Ohio State Dwayne Haskins. He did his thing. The NFL Dwayne Haskins, I ain't seen it. Yeah. So even if he does get to where he needs to get to, I still have the Steelers fourth. The Bengals, I have them up and up. So, they're...
Yeah, like, I kind of agree with you because I feel like when it comes down to it, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Browns, they're trending up with the Steelers kind of trending down. And the biggest thing between those three teams is they need to just be on the same track.
Yeah.
Like, the Browns seem like they kind of got it, but at times they kind of falter. But once they just clean up those small mistakes, like, the Browns will be really scary. Like, the Browns got the talent and possibly the capability to go undefeated. I'm not going to lie to you.
That's never happened in Cleveland, though.
It's never going to happen. Especially
we happy being playoff contenders every year. I'm cool with that.
Especially not in that division.
I ain't going too
with,
far.
like I said, with two other teams trying to kind of trending up. Yeah, and then also with the Ravens, like, when Willie Snead, I don't think Willie Snead is a number one receiver.
No.
But he's consistent. He's solid. If Hollywood Brown could get on the same track with Lamar, that could be a very scary sight.
Yeah, I mean, they have the most potential, but I'm just looking at it from the young talent.
Right.
Like the Ravens, their young talent is still really Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Hollywood Brown. But compared to the compared to the Browns and the Bengals' young talent, because it's not like Jarvis Landry or Odell Beckham's old.
Right,
Baker's young, Chubb, Hunt, all those guys are young. So I think that's just where it is with the up and up. So again, the Steelers would be at the bottom if things worked out the way you said it. But still, I think that would even call that could be a fluctuation over the years too. Though, like I think this is about to be really resemblance of the old NFC South days where the team that finished first and the worst, every year, and vice versa a lot. So I just think that each year is it's really a brand new year, especially in the AFC North.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's all I got for the show notes. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, that's about it. Outside of, check us out next week, same time, same channel. Obviously, Open Gym Wednesday. We'll have that on and popping. There's going to be a lot of stuff I'm going to have to say on that joint for sure. And actually, next week we won't have a Nutty North show.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that.
We are going to take the week off and get ready for the Super Bowl week. Try to have something special for y'all around that time. So,
so basically, that Nutty North show will be less about the AFC North and more about just football and NFL in general.
Yeah, it's still AFC North.
Right. Yeah,
we still touch base on them, but
yeah.
we definitely we'll talk about what's important on there. Super Bowl. So yeah. Next week, just Open Gym on Wednesday, 12 o'clock. Be here. Well, 12-ish. We do. But, yeah, definitely.
Why you gotta say it like that?
It ain't like they don't know.
Oh, man, yeah, I guess.
Sometimes we on CPT, man, even though I don't like it. Sometimes we on CPT. But, yeah, like, share, all that, show love. I see all the memes and all that getting shared. Go ahead and share these posts. That's all it is, to show love. It don't take that long. I don't know, why people make it so hard to support, but that's what we like to do around here. We like to keep it real, talk our trash, but at the end of the day, we support each other, and that's what it is.
Also, them YouTube channels, they real close. I'm telling you, I finally really sat down. I did some simple graphics. I was trying to do too much, but they real close. They real close.
They'll know about it. We get
real
there.
Close. Hey, once I get T that information, he gonna send it out more than likely. So yeah, they real close. But I ain't got nothing else to say. You done?
Yeah. Make sure to check us out.
Yeah. Check us out next week, all right? Or check Nutty North out the week after. Open Gym next week. See y'all.